What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. This will be a spoiler-free review for Disney's live adaptation of Snow White, which is coming out this Friday, directed by Mark Webb and written by Aaron Wilson, who has not written anything, I believe, like a feature-length film since 2016 with a Emily Blunt starring project, I think. Whatever. But this film is starring, of course, Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, Andrew Burnham, and several other stars, and it's been shrouded in controversy. But Snow White is revolving around a beautiful girl, who again is named Snow White, who takes refuge in the forest in the house of 7 dwarfs to hide from her stepmother, the Wicked Queen. The queen is jealous because she wants to be known as the fairest in the land, and Snow White's beauty surpasses her own. Now, Disney's Snow White, I would say, is watchable. I was going to say serviceable, but it is watchable. It's a watchable live adaptation of a beloved classic. Unfortunately, most of that is due to Rachel Zegler, meaning her performance does the heavy lifting, and without it, I'm sure this film would be forgettable. Don't get me wrong, it's got everything younger Disney fans will enjoy because they're not going to be looking at it through the same lens as we would be. But in fairness, when you're constructing a film, I think it is more appropriate to concoct something that everyone can enjoy. And I think it's best to concoct these projects with the mentality of, as kids get older, they should still be able to go back and rewatch these things. There's a lot of kids movies that I can't revisit because with the lens that I have now, they're actually not that well put together. And Snow White, unfortunately, is not a movie that is all that good. Take away the catchy musical numbers and Zegler's undeniable talent, you're left with another hollow attempt at cashing in on nostalgia or a CGI mess, whatever works better for you. Anyone who watches my channel long term knows I did not extensively cover this film's development, but I wasn't ignorant to the controversy that was surrounding it. That controversy definitely got me more interested though, and I'm glad I at least gave it a chance, even if Rachel Zegler is the only true highlight. I didn't bother revisiting the original since it appeared we were going far away from that narrative, but Snow White, a young princess destined for greatness, has had all of that ripped from her by her tyrant of a stepmother, the evil queen. Now, after tragedy struck her youth, Snow White is reduced to living in the evil queen's shadow along with the rest of the kingdom. On the surface, that is sad. Yes, it's tragic, and an easy end for viewers to connect with Snow White and those suffering under the queen's reign of terror. The only problem is this: we as the viewer are left out of most of this hardship, so I'm struggling to connect with half of the narrative due to it being rushed and arguably undercooked. Snow White's journey to unlocking her inner leader is handled with care, I'll give it that, but this adaptation rushes to the finish line far too often. The evil queen is barely a convincing threat, not just due to Gal being lazy with her performance at times, but because this screenplay spends more time telling versus letting viewers experience the evil ways of the queen, and not only that, just experiencing its own titular character. In a nutshell, Snow White wasn't interested in exploring its own narrative, but it was desperate to sell you on all of these absurdities like our CGI mess of dwarves, an unconvincing attempt at one point in the film from the evil queen to take out Snow White, and a rushed love story. The dialogue, though, isn't awful. Most of the exchanges do feel like real conversations. The musical numbers work for like the first 3 or 4 times, then it just becomes overdone, and a few songs can feel out of place. I don't believe another film will be able to top this either, so shout out to you, Disney, because Snow White has one of the worst final acts I think I will be seeing all year. It is so underwhelming, so lackluster, and another nail in the coffin as to why the evil queen presented in this film is not a convincing threat. Now, Rachel Zegler deserved way better than this. She carried the project on her back. Immaculate line delivery, unforgettable singing voice. She elevates the entire film. Gal Gadot, on the other hand, I don't think she's a terrible actress. I do want to get that out there. But her work here is cringy at best. At times, her delivery is perfect, and then it's completely off-putting. She appeared to be struggling to sell the narrative, making the overall experience less immersive. But Gal isn't the biggest sin. It's those CGI dwarves. In fact, it's just the CGI altogether, the animals included. None worse than the dwarves. Very off-putting, even with Zegler working overtime to sell the audience on their existence. One actor is around the same height as them, an actual person. So I'm sitting there going, why didn't we represent that community by casting more talent? It's just another case of wanting to pander so hard, it finally didn't work in your favor. And now we're sitting here watching a mess of dwarves on our screen that look atrocious at times, and they take you out of the experience when you're comparing that to the fact that there's an actual real person who's their same height. And I'm like, what are we doing? You talk so much about representation. Where's their representation? It just was very off-putting. And again, Rachel Zegler is working overtime trying to make it all work. She is the standout of this project, which is otherwise arguably a train wreck. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It is quite a train wreck. It's so rushed as a project. I don't know what they were thinking here, man. Sure, at times the aesthetic of it all is very charming. It is very lighthearted. And again, it encompasses all the things you could say will attract the younger Disney fans. I just do not think this is going to age well in terms of the fact that when you're constructing or concocting a children's film, I feel as though when children grow up into adults, they are supposed to be able to revisit their childhood favorites and be able to still say, that is a good time. That is a good movie. There are a few childhood films of my own that I rewatch now with the lens that I have when it comes to filmmaking. They are not all that well put together. There's a handful that are, and they stand the test of time for a reason. This, though, I see children turning on it as they get older and recognizing it for the abysmal mess that it is, and recognizing that the only highlight of it was Rachel Zegler. Yeah, you'll have a nostalgic attachment to it the way I do for certain other bad projects from my youth. But I think this generation of children are going to feel that same way as they get older towards this live adaptation of Snow White. The musical numbers are fine. I would say that the pacing is really working against the film during a lot of moments. It's just rushed. It's way too fast. It's going from one thing to the next. At times you could argue, yes, it has a good rhythm where it never gets boring, but it's not letting most of its narrative breathe. And because of that, you're going to be left just going, that's it. That's all. And it just doesn't work. It's not a good movie. It's not. It's rushed. It's undercooked. It's a CGI mess. More than one occasion. Rachel Zegler working overtime. Gal Gadot being awful. I don't think she's a terrible actress, but again, the best word to describe her here is cringy. In short, Snow White is nothing more than just a highlight reel of how talented Rachel Zegler is and everything that's wrong with Disney today. I would give this movie a solid 3 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. In the description, I have links to all my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course, to let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.